Joseph is now in prison. While in prison, he meets two Egyptian officials. These two officials have dreams they wish for him to interpret. Sometime later, even the Pharaoh calls upon him to interpret a dream. What do these dreams mean? And better yet, what do these dreams mean for Joseph? Let's find out. Hey there, everybody. Welcome to Tally Talks Bible. Where last left off, Joseph was in prison. He's been falsely accused by the Potiphar's wife that he was trying to sleep with her. So now he's in prison, and while he's in prison, he's going to come across two Egyptian officials. And these officials are going to have dreams. Now, we know from previous chapters that Joseph is a dreamer. He's already had two dreams about his brothers bowing down to him. So we already see that there's some significance to these dreams, and that Joseph has the power to interpret these dreams. So let's get started and see what these dreams are and what they're all about. This is going to be chapter 40, and it's about the cupbearer and the baker. Begins. Sometime later, the cupbearer and the baker of the king of Egypt offended their master, the king of Egypt. Pharaoh was angry with his two officials, the chief cupbearer and the chief baker, and put them in custody in the house of the captain of the guard, in the same prison where Joseph was confined. The captain of the guard assigned them to Joseph, and he attended them. After they had been in custody for some time, each of the two men, the cupbearer and the baker of the king of Egypt, who were being held in prison, had a dream the same night, and each dream had a meaning of its own. When Joseph came to them the next morning, he saw that they were dejected. So he asked Pharaoh's officials, who were in custody with him in his master's house, "Why do you look so sad today?" "We both had dreams," they answered, "but there is no one to interpret them." Then Joseph said to them, "Do not interpretations belong to God? Tell me your dreams." So the chief cupbearer told Joseph his dream. He said to him, "In my dream, I saw a vine in front of me, and on the vine were 3 branches. As soon as it budded, it blossomed, and its clusters ripened in the grapes. Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes and squeezed them into Pharaoh's cup and put the cup in his hand." "This is what it means," Joseph said to him. "The 3 branches are 3 days. Within 3 days, Pharaoh will lift up your head and restore you to your position, and you will put Pharaoh's cup in his hand, just as you used to do when you were his cupbearer. But when all goes well with you, remember me and show me kindness. Mention me to Pharaoh and get me out of this prison. I was forcibly carried off from the land of the Hebrews, and even here I have done nothing to deserve being put in a dungeon." So here we are now. He's interpreted this dream for the cupbearer. And the way it looks is the cupbearer has been falsely imprisoned. And Joseph relates to that and tells him, "Hey, I've been falsely put here as well. I've actually been doubly, accused of wrong and being put somewhere I wasn't supposed to be." He was put into slavery, sold into slavery by his brothers, and has now been, falsely accused by the Potiphar's wife, and that is why he's in prison now. So everything here that he's telling the cupbearer is good news, telling him he's going to be back in his position within 3 days. And he's also saying, "Hey, when you get back out there on the outside, remember me. Put in a good word for me so that maybe I can get out of here." So now let's see what the baker's dream is about. When the chief baker saw that Joseph had given a favorable interpretation, he said to Joseph, "I too had a dream. On my head were 3 baskets of bread. In the top basket were all kinds of baked goods for Pharaoh, but the birds were eating them out of the baskets on my head." "This is what it means," Joseph said. 3 baskets are 3 days. Within 3 days, Pharaoh will lift off your head and impale your body on a pole, and the birds will eat away your flesh. Now the 3rd day was Pharaoh's birthday, and he gave a feast for all his officials. He lifted up the head of the chief cupbearer and the baker, and the chief baker, in the presence of his officials. He restored the chief cupbearer to his position, so that he once again put the cup into Pharaoh's hand, but he impaled the chief baker, just as Joseph had said to them in his interpretation. The chief cupbearer, however, did not remember Joseph. He forgot him. So here we see now is that the interpretations came to pass. The cupbearer was restored to his position, and the baker was impaled, just as Joseph had said. Now, the issue here is that the cupbearer has now forgotten what Joseph had done. He has forgotten what Joseph had asked him to do. He had said, "Hey, remember me. When you get out there, remember me." So now some time has passed. It's around 2 years. It's actually been about uh, 13 years now since Joseph was sold into slavery. Um, Now, after this incident with the cupbearer and the baker, it's been about 2 years. And now the Pharaoh is going to start having a dream. And usually, whenever the Pharaoh's having a dream and it's of importance to him, it's of importance to everybody. Like, it's a drop everything. Hey, you come here. What does this mean? What does this mean? What does this mean? He needs someone to interpret the dream for him. And also, I do want to stop and pause for a second here before I get into this. If you think about how this chapter is going to unfold, actually, let me come back to that. Let me come back to that at the end of this chapter because it'll make more sense if I do it that way. I'm getting ahead of myself. So I'm going to start here on chapter 41. Pharaoh's dreams. When 2 full years had passed, Pharaoh had a dream. He was standing by the Nile. When out of the river there came up 7 cows, sleek and fat, and they grazed among the reeds. After them 7 other cows, ugly and gaunt, came out of the Nile and stood beside those on the riverbank. And the cows were ugly and gaunt, ate up the 7 sleek fat cows. Then Pharaoh woke up. He fell asleep again and had a second dream. 7 heads of grain, healthy and good, were growing on a single stalk. After them 7 other heads of grain sprouted, thin and scorched by the east wind. The thin heads of grain swallowed up the 7 healthy, full heads. Then Pharaoh woke up. It had been a dream. In the morning, his mind was troubled, so he sent for all the magicians and wise men of Egypt. Pharaoh told them his dream, but no one could interpret them for him. So, like I said, now he's gonna have this dream, and you notice it's saying 7 here. 7 shows up like 7 days of creation. 7 in the context of the Bible means it's complete. 7 is a complete number in the Bible. So now this dream he's having, it's kind of like a repeat. He sees these healthy cows, and then all of a sudden these ugly looking cows, not so healthy looking cows, come and destroy the ones that are healthy. Same thing with the grain. The grain is sprouting up. It's healthy. It's full. And then after these 7 sprout up 7 more that are, just kind of weak and frail looking, but they somehow destroy the healthy ones. So now the cupbearer, after 2 years, is going to be like, oh, wait, yeah, I remember something. So this is where the cupbearer is going to remember Joseph. Then the chief cupbearer said to Pharaoh, "Today I am reminded of my shortcomings. Pharaoh was once angry with his servants and imprisoned me and the chief baker in the house of the captain of the guard. Each of us had a dream the same night, and each dream had a meaning of its own. Now a young Hebrew was there with us, a servant of the captain of the guard. We told him our dreams, and he interpreted them for us, giving each the interpretation of his dream. And things turned out exactly as he interpreted them to us. I was restored to my position, and the other man was impaled. So Pharaoh sent for Joseph, and he was quickly brought from the dungeon. When he had shaved and changed his clothes, he came before Pharaoh. Pharaoh said to Joseph, I had a dream, and no one can interpret it. But I have heard it said of you that when you hear a dream, you can interpret it. I cannot do it, Joseph replied to Pharaoh, but God will give Pharaoh the answer he desires. So now Joseph has been brought before the Pharaoh and is ready to interpret the dream. Now, notice it says that he was shaven and everything else like that. I mean, he's been in prison, in a dungeon. I'm sure he's not been able to keep too clean. And also, the Egyptians back then, that was their thing. They like to be clean shaven for the most part. Little fun fact: a lot of times, like you see Egyptians, a lot of the hair they had, they wore wigs. They wore wigs because they were terrified of lice. They had a real thing about that. So, continuing on. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, In my dream, I was standing on the bank of the Nile. When out of the river there came up 7 cows, fat and sleek, and they grazed among the reeds. After them, 7 other cows came up, scrawny and very ugly and lean. I had never seen such ugly cows in all the land of Egypt. The lean, ugly cows ate up the 7 fat cows that came up first. But even after they ate them, no one could tell that they had done so. They looked just as ugly as before. Then I woke up. In my dream, I saw 7 heads of grain, full and good, growing on a single stalk. After them, 7 other heads sprouted, withered and thin, and scorched by the east wind. The thin heads of grain swallowed up the 7 good heads. I told this to the magicians, but none of them could explain it to me. Then Joseph said to Pharaoh, "The dreams of Pharaoh are one and the same. God has revealed to Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good cows are 7 years, and the 7 good heads of grain are 7 years. It is one and the same dream. The 7 lean, ugly cows that came up after are 7 years, and so are the 7 worthless heads of grain scorched by the east wind. They are 7 years of famine." So what he's interpreted these dreams to be is, for 7 years, Egypt is going to be prosperous. There's going to be abundance of food. Everything is going to be going just perfect, great. Everybody's going to have plenty of food to eat. But then after those 7 years, there's going to be 7 years of famine, where the land's not going to grow and everything else like that. Um, this is actually calling out something that's going to happen, or supposed to happen, later on down the road in the Bible. And this isn't the first famine that's happened. I mean, there's been other famines that's been mentioned here before this one, but this one just kind of sticks out. Um, so let's go ahead and we'll continue on. This chapter is very long too, by the way, but I'm already halfway through it. So let's continue. It is just as I said to Pharaoh. God has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do. 7 years of great abundance are coming throughout the land of Egypt, but 7 years of famine will follow them. Then all the abundance in Egypt will be forgotten, and the famine will ravage the land. The abundance in the land will not be remembered, because the famine that follows will be so severe. The reason the dream was given to Pharaoh in 2 forms is that the matter has been firmly decided by God, and God will do it soon. And now let Pharaoh look for a discerning and wise man, and put him in charge of the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh appoint commissioners over the land to take 1/5 of the harvest of Egypt during the 7 years of abundance. They should collect all the food of these good years that are coming and store them up, the grain under the authority of Pharaoh, to be kept in the cities for food. This food should be held in reserve for the country to be used during 7 years of famine. That will come upon Egypt, so that the country may not be ruined by the famine. So now here we're saying that the best course of action has been given, and he's telling him, hey, you're going to have 7 years of just like exceedingly good crops, harvest, abundance. Don't waste it. Store it up. Store it up. Prepare for these 7 years of famine that are coming. Let's be smart about this. So the Pharaoh seems to like this idea. Pharaoh seems to like this idea a lot. And it continues on. The plan seemed good to Pharaoh and to all his officials. So Pharaoh asked them, "Can we find anyone like this man, one whom is the Spirit of God?" Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Since God has made all this known to you, there is no one so discerning and wise as you. You shall be in charge of my palace, and all my people are to submit to your orders. Only with respect to the throne will I be greater than you." So now Joseph is being put in charge. Basically, the way the Pharaoh was saying is like, hey, you're in charge. The only other person that's going to be above you is me. So now Joseph is being put in charge, and it's going to finish out the chapter talking about all what he does during these 7 years of abundance. Verse 41. So Pharaoh said to Joseph, "I hereby put you in charge of the whole land of Egypt." And Pharaoh took a signet ring from his finger and put it on Joseph's finger. He dressed him in robes of fine linen and put a gold chain around his neck. He had him ride a chariot as his second in command, and people shouted before him, "Make way!" Thus put him in charge of the whole land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "I am Pharaoh, but without your word no one will lift a hand or foot in all of Egypt." Pharaoh gave Joseph the name of Zephanath-Paneah, and gave him Senath, daughter of Potiphera, priest of On, to be his wife. And Joseph went throughout the land of Egypt. Joseph was 30 years old when he entered the service of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And Joseph went out from Pharaoh's presence and traveled throughout Egypt. During the 7 years of abundance, the land produced plentiful. Joseph collected all the food produced in those 7 years of abundance in Egypt and stored it in the cities. In each city, he put the food grown in the fields surrounding it. Joseph stored up huge quantities of grain, like the sand of the sea. It was so much that he stopped keeping records because it was beyond his measure. So he's been put in charge, second command. He's like, go around, tell people we need to stockpile everything. So that's what he does. And he's given an Egyptian woman to marry. And if I'm not mistaken, this is the first time it's actually mentioned that um, anyone after Abraham was married to an Egyptian. I know several married some Canaanites, which we read a couple chapters ago about Judah and how that panned out for him, and how Esau married some Canaanite women, and that was a real headache. But as far as I know, there's not any mention of any of the other brothers like marrying into Egyptians, or actually, I don't know. It hasn't got to that point yet, talking about their descendants. So now he's married. He's gone through Egypt, collected all this grain in the 7 years of abundance. But now the 7 years of famine are about to hit. So I'm guessing in this time he had a little bit of a downtime. So now he's kind of starting to make a family. Before the years of famine came, 2 sons were born to Joseph by Asenath, daughter of Potiphar, priest of On. Joseph named his firstborn Manasseh, and said, "It is because God made me forget all my troubles and all my father's household." Second son he named Ephraim, and said, "It's because God had made me fruitful in the land of my suffering." 7 years of abundance in Egypt came to an end, and 7 years of famine began, just as Joseph had said. There was famine in all the other lands, but the whole land of Egypt there was food. When all Egypt began to feel the famine, the people cried to Pharaoh for food. Pharaoh told all the Egyptians, "Go to Joseph and do what he tells you." When the famine had spread when the famine had spread over the whole country, Joseph opened all the storehouses and sold grain to the Egyptians, for the famine was severe throughout Egypt. And all the world came to Egypt to buy grain from Joseph because the famine was severe everywhere. So I just had to correct myself here. He had the children before. I guess during the 7 years, it's when his children were born of abundance. Um, and notice the names. His firstborn is talking about how the name means, that he's forgotten all his troubles that have happened, because he was sold into slavery and he was in prison. And this is where I'm going to bring up the topic I was about to talk about. This is actually the first mention of like a good, like, city, if you will. If you know anything later on in the Bible, Egypt is not that great of a place here, after Joseph. But right now, Egypt is a good place. It's very prosperous, full of abundance. Everything is going good. It's not making mention that, it's talked about Egypt here and there before, but, it's not like a Sodom and Gomorrah where everything was just people killing each other, stealing, things of that nature. It's more civilized and everybody's getting along. But this is actually like the first mention of a city that's not just clouded in sin. But like I said, it doesn't stay that way. We'll find out later on what happens in Egypt. I'm sure a lot of y'all already know. Um, so now the famine is severe everywhere. It's not just a famine in Egypt, it's a famine in all the land. And there's going to be some people that Joseph knows are going to come visit him. Let's see who these people are. When Jacob learned that there was grain in Egypt, he said to his sons, "Why do you just keep looking at each other?" He continued. "I've heard that there's grain in Egypt. Go down there and buy some for us, so that we may live on and not die." Then 10 of Joseph's brothers went down to buy grain from Egypt. But Jacob did not send Benjamin, Joseph's brother, with the others, because he was afraid that harm might come to him. So Israel's sons were among those who went to buy grain, for there was famine in the land of Canaan also. Now notice what it does here. Here we see, Jacob, Israel, is just like, "What are you guys doing? Come on, guys. What are y'all sitting around here? Go find us a way to get food. I hear there's food in Egypt. Get going." But he doesn't want Benjamin to go. Benjamin is the youngest and the last born, and is the second son of his late wife, Rachel, who's actually now become his favorite because we know that Rachel was his favorite. Just like when Joseph was born, Joseph was his favorite, but he still thinks Joseph is dead. He doesn't know Joseph is alive. So now the last little bit of his favorite wife is Benjamin, and he's trying to hold on to that. He's afraid that what happened to Joseph will happen to Benjamin, so he doesn't send Benjamin along. But now the other 10 have gone on to Egypt to buy grain. So let's see what happens. Now Joseph was the governor of the land, the person who sold grain to all its people. So when Joseph's brothers arrived, they bowed down to him with their faces on the ground. What does that sound like? As soon as Joseph saw his brothers, he recognized them, but he pretended to be a stranger and spoke harshly to them. Where do you come from? He asked. From the land of Canaan, they replied, to buy food. Although Joseph recognized his brothers, they did not recognize him. Then he remembered his dreams about them and said to them, You are spies. You have come to see where our land is unprotected. No, my lord, they answered. Your servants have come to buy food. We are all the sons of one man. Your servants are honest men, not spies. No, he said to them, You have come to see where our land is unprotected. But they replied, Your servants were 12 brothers, the sons of one man who lives in the land of Canaan. The youngest is now with our father, and one is no more. Okay, sounds like one of Joseph's dreams has come to fruition. You know, it's now been, it says that he was 30 years old um, at the time when he was, going around doing famine, during the famine, Where did it say that at? Anyway, it's been 13 years now. If you do the math, he was 11 years in prison, 2 years after the dream. He's 30 years. Um, and now they haven't seen Joseph in a very long time. I mean, he was still a teenager the last time they seen him. So he's unrecognizable because, he's probably dressed in the same garbs and everything. It's like, someone in Egypt would be. So they don't recognize him. I mean, of course he recognizes them because I'm sure of, you know, they were older. They didn't go through a whole lot of changes. They're wearing probably the clothing that he knows from his time when he was still with them. But now he's wanting to see, how they are. He's trying to see if they're still just as wicked as they were when they sold him into slavery, and he's trying to put them through a test. So let's see how this test unfolds. Joseph said to them, "It's just as I told you. You are spies, and this is how you will be tested. As surely as Pharaoh lives, you will not leave this place unless your youngest brother comes here. Send one of your number to get your brother. The rest of you will be kept in prison, so that your words may be tested to see if you are telling the truth. If you're not, then as surely as Pharaoh lives, you are spies." And he put them all in custody for 3 days. On the third day, Joseph said to them, "Do this, and you will live, for I fear God. If you are honest men, let one of your brothers stay here in prison, while the rest of you go and take grain back for your starving household. But you must bring your youngest brother to me, so that your words may be verified, and that you may not die." This they proceeded to do. They said to one another, "Surely we are being punished because of our brother. We saw how distressed he was when he pleaded with us for his life, but we would not listen. That's why this distress has come upon us." Reuben replied, "Didn't I tell you not to sin against the boy? But you wouldn't listen. Now must Now we must give an accounting for his blood." They did not realize that Joseph could understand them, since he was using an interpreter. He turned away from them and began to weep, but then came back and spoke to them again. He had Simeon taken from them and bound before their eyes. Joseph gave orders to fill their bags with grain, to put each man's silver back in his sack, and to give them provisions for their journey. After this was done for them, they loaded their grain on their donkeys and left. So they're trying to see basically if they're talking about amongst each other. They don't realize that, they don't know it's Joseph. They think it's just an Egyptian who doesn't speak their language, but they're speaking amongst themselves, meaning they're speaking the language they know. Um, So they're basically saying, this is it. We deserve this. We're being punished for what we did to our brother Joseph. This is why this is happening to us. And Joseph is being a little tricky here with them. He's giving them the grain, acting like he's taking the payment for it, but leaving the payment still with them as if they took the grain without paying. So let's see how the rest of this is going to unfold. At the place where they stopped for the night, one of them opened his sacks to get feed for his donkey, and he saw his silver in the mouth of the sack. My silver has been returned, he said to his brothers. Here it is in my sack. Their hearts sank, and they turned to each other, trembling, and said, What is this that God has done to us? When they came to their father Jacob in the land of Canaan, they told him all that had happened to them. They said, The man who is Lord over the land spoke harshly to us and treated us as though we were spying on the land. But we said to him, We are honest men. We are not spies. We were 12 brothers, sons of one father. One is no more, and the youngest is now with father in Canaan. The man who is Lord over the land said to us, This is how I will know whether you are honest men. Leave one of your brothers here with me, and take food for your starving household and go. But bring your youngest brother to me, so I will know that you are not spies, but honest men. Then I will give your brother back to you, and you can trade in the land. So now they've discovered this money. It's still in their possession, and they've told Jacob, Israel, what has happened, what all was going on, and what they've been told to do. Jacob's not going to like this too well, but he's going to have to give in. So let's finish this up and see how it all unfolds. As they were emptying their sacks, there in each man's sack was his pouch of silver. When they and their father saw the money pouches, they were frightened. Their father Jacob said to them, You have deprived me of my children. Joseph is no more, Simeon is no more, and now you want to take Benjamin? Everything is against me. Then Reuben said to his father, You may put both of my sons to death if I do not bring him back to you. Entrust him to my care, and I will bring him back. But Jacob said, My son will not go down there with you. His brother is dead, and he is the only one left. If harm comes to him on the journey you are taking, you will bring my gray head down to the grave in sorrow. So Jacob, Israel, doesn't like the idea of Benjamin going with them back to Egypt. Because like I said, Benjamin is now his favorite son. He doesn't want to let him go. Joseph, he thinks is dead. He's lost his wife. I understand, like, he has all these other sons. But even Reuben is like, because Reuben feels ultimately responsible. Even though he did try to stop his brothers, he's offering up his own sons. Like, hey, if I take Benjamin down there and don't come back, kill my two sons. He's willing to sacrifice his own sons just to take his brother there and get his other brother back. So I'm gonna stop it right there. Jacob will, finally give in, and that's where we'll pick up as the sons return back to Egypt. So that's gonna be it for now. This is part 2 of the Joseph series. It's gonna be a long ride, so I hope y'all ready for it. I'd like to thank you for watching, and as always, God bless.